description. By the mid-21st century, the way humans communicate has transformed in ways unimaginable just a few decades earlier. In a world where hyperconnectivity has blurred national boundaries and technological marvels dominate human interaction, how has language adapted? This story explores the triumphs and challenges of linguistic evolution in a globalized, tech-driven society. Chapter 1. A Babel Without Barriers. It was the year 2048, and humanity had achieved what had once seemed impossible, a universal translator that allowed real-time, flawless communication across every known language. Called the linguosphere, the technology was a product of decades of advancements in artificial intelligence, neural networks, and brain-machine interfaces. Embedded discretely in a small device or integrated as neural implants, the linguosphere had made traditional language learning a quaint relic of the past. Communication no longer felt constrained by the barrier of words. A child in Senegal could speak their native Wolof and seamlessly chat with a retiree in Tokyo, who heard the conversation in perfect Japanese. Global conferences resembled orchestras of polyphony, with delegates hearing only their chosen language in their ears. Yet, this seemingly perfect solution came with unintended consequences. While the practical need for multilingual fluency had vanished, so too had much of the cultural motivation to preserve native tongues. Many feared that minority languages, already endangered in the early 21st century, would fade entirely. For linguists like Dr. Elena Markovic, the trade-off between hyperconnectivity and linguistic diversity was a bittersweet reality. Sitting in her study in Vienna, she scrolled through data indicating that languages such as Breton, Hawaiian, and Navajo had seen a 60% drop in daily usage since the introduction of the linguosphere. Universal access shouldn't mean cultural erasure, she mused aloud. But how could they protect diversity when convenience reigns supreme? Chapter 2. The Age of Hybrid Tongues. Beyond the linguosphere's seamless translations, a curious phenomenon had emerged: hybrid languages. As more people interacted through universal translators, they began to incorporate words, phrases, and idioms from multiple languages into their daily speech. Over time, a global pidgin, informally called Unitalk, had begun to emerge. Unitalk was not imposed by governments or organizations, it evolved naturally. It mixed English's syntax with Mandarin particles, Swahili inflections, and Spanish idioms. For teenagers, Unitalk became a badge of belonging, a linguistic expression of their identity in a borderless world. On social media, Unitalk memes and hashtags dominated, with phrases like "Yalla, let's vibe aura," or "Sia for the info, bro." But not everyone embraced this linguistic melting pot. Linguistic purists called it an abomination. Unitalk dilutes the soul of true language, protested Professor Yume at a televised panel in Shanghai. We are losing the poetry of individual tongues for the blandness of one global dialect. Countering her, a young activist named Tarek stood up. Languages evolve, Professor. Isn't Unitalk just the next chapter in that evolution? We can connect in ways our ancestors never dreamed of. For Tarek and his generation, language was no longer tied to geography. It was fluid, creative, and evolving at an unprecedented speed. Yet, questions loomed. Would this linguistic amalgamation lead to greater unity or erase cherished cultural identities? Chapter 3. Echoes of the Ancestors. Dr. Elena Markovic watched Tarek's impassioned defense of Unitalk on her holographic screen. She admired his enthusiasm, but couldn't shake her unease. In her decades of work documenting endangered languages, she had seen how quickly a language could vanish once younger generations stopped speaking it. Technology had accelerated that process. Determined to address the issue, Elena founded the Cultural Linguistics Preservation Initiative, CLPI, a global effort aimed at preserving endangered languages in digital formats. Collaborating with AI developers, linguists, and historians, she helped create interactive holographic tutors who could teach ancient languages in engaging ways. These tutors weren't just about rote learning. They used augmented reality to immerse users in the worlds where these languages thrived. For instance, a student learning Nahuatl could experience bustling Aztec marketplaces through their neural interface, while someone studying Gaelic could walk through a virtual Celtic festival, hearing tales of ancient warriors in the original tongue. Elena hoped these innovations would spark curiosity among young people. "We can't let the past dissolve into static," she told her team. "Our languages are the threads that weave our shared history." But despite her efforts, the initiative struggled to gain widespread traction. Convenience continued to trump preservation. People argued that the holograms were fascinating but unnecessary in a world where universal translation made understanding effortless. It became clear to Elena that she would need to show people that losing their linguistic heritage was not just a cultural loss, it was a loss of identity. Chapter 4: The Algorithmic Babel Crisis. Meanwhile, cracks began to appear in the lingosphere's seamless utopia. As more languages faded and hybrid speech patterns like Unitalk proliferated, the translation algorithms began to falter. In Mumbai, a diplomat's statement during an international summit was mistranslated, changing "collaborate" to "capitulate." In São Paulo, a business deal nearly fell apart when regional slang was interpreted as an insult. And in Berlin, a debate over refugee policies became heated after a crucial phrase in Arabic was garbled, sparking unnecessary outrage. The problem wasn't just technical, it was cultural. The algorithms had been trained on rich linguistic databases from the early 21st century, but as usage patterns shifted and minority languages vanished, the AI's understanding of nuance and context grew incomplete. The lingusphere's creators rushed to update their models, but the pace of linguistic change outstripped their efforts. Elena saw the crisis as an opportunity. If people couldn't rely solely on AI to navigate the complexities of human communication, perhaps they would value the richness of languages once more. She began advocating for linguistic literacy, the idea that people should learn at least one other language beyond their native tongue to foster understanding and cultural empathy. Public opinion was divided. Some supported Elena's vision, while others clung to the convenience of AI. Tariq, now a prominent figure in the youth movement for Unitalk, proposed a middle ground, teaching Unitalk as a lingua franca alongside the revival of ancestral languages. "We can honor the past while embracing the future," he argued in a viral video. "The key isn't to choose one over the other, it's to keep them all alive." The world stood at a crossroads, and the decisions made now would shape the future of human communication for generations. Chapter 5: A Global Experiment. Inspired by Tariq's proposal and faced with mounting pressure to address the algorithmic Babel crisis, the United Nations convened a summit to decide the future of global communication. Leaders, linguists, technologists, and activists gathered in Geneva to debate a bold new initiative, the Linguistic Harmony Project. The project aimed to integrate Unitalk as a universal auxiliary language while actively preserving and revitalizing ancestral tongues. Nations would receive funding to develop immersive education programs, similar to Elena's holographic tutors, but on a global scale. Additionally, the lingusphere's algorithms would be overhauled to include these endangered languages, ensuring their relevance in the hyperconnected world. The project wasn't without controversy. Some governments balked at the expense, while others feared that teaching Unitalk as a global standard would further dilute their national identities. "Why should my child speak a mishmash when they already have a perfectly fine language?" argued one delegate from France. Tariq countered in his keynote address, speaking directly in Unitalk to the diverse audience. His speech transitioned fluidly between languages, blending them seamlessly to illustrate his point. Unitalk isn't about replacing your mother tongue. It's about bridging gaps. When we share words, we share worlds. The room erupted in applause, but not everyone was convinced. As the summit ended, the world agreed to a trial phase. Over the next decade, educational institutions, businesses, and cultural organizations would pilot the dual approach, testing whether humanity could balance a common language with the preservation of its linguistic heritage. Chapter 6: The Digital Guardians of Language. As the Linguistic Harmony Project unfolded, another innovation quietly emerged, one that would redefine how humanity interacted with its linguistic past. Dubbed LanguAI Guardians, these advanced AI programs acted as protectors of cultural heritage. LanguAI Guardians weren't just static databases. They were adaptive, living entities designed to grow alongside the speakers of the languages they represented. Powered by quantum neural networks, they could converse fluently, share cultural histories, and even adapt to new slang and expressions. Each guardian was embedded with the values, idioms, and stories of its respective language, ensuring that users could experience not only words, but the spirit behind them. One such guardian, named Ama, represented the Shona language of Zimbabwe. Ama became a sensation when a musician used it to compose a song entirely in Shona, blending traditional melodies with futuristic beats. The song went viral, sparking a resurgence of interest in the language among Zimbabwean youth. Similar stories emerged worldwide, from students in Iceland rekindling their connection with Old Norse to diaspora communities in New York embracing their ancestral tongues. Dr. Elena Markovich watched these developments with cautious optimism. The Guardians were a powerful tool, but she feared they might also become crutches. A language lives only when spoken, she reminded her team. Technology can inspire, but it cannot replace the human voice. Tarek, meanwhile, saw the Guardians as allies. He partnered with tech firms to integrate UniTalk into the AI, creating guardians that could act as mediators between languages. A UniTalk-speaking guardian could guide users in learning other languages, breaking down not just linguistic barriers, but the fear of tackling a foreign tongue. As the guardians spread, so did a renewed sense of linguistic pride. Yet, beneath the surface, tensions brewed. Would this delicate balance hold, or would humanity's reliance on AI tip the scales once again? Chapter 7: The Rise of Lingua Wars. Despite the success of the Linguistic Harmony Project and the popularity of LanguAI Guardians, friction began to emerge in unexpected ways. Communities that had worked hard to revive their ancestral languages grew wary of UniTalk, seeing it as a threat to their cultural autonomy. Nationalist movements in some countries began advocating for linguistic purity, rejecting the global push for hybridization. In India, a coalition of regional leaders protested the teaching of UniTalk in schools, insisting that children focus instead on Hindi, Tamil, or other native languages. "Our children must know where they come from," declared Minister Kavitha Rao in a fiery speech. Not some artificial language invented for global convenience. Similar sentiments echoed in France, Japan, and even parts of the United States, where regional dialects were gaining new importance in cultural identity movements. At the same time, UniTalk enthusiasts like Tarek faced growing hostility. In online forums, debates turned heated, with accusations of cultural imperialism flying in every direction. Activists accused wealthy nations of promoting UniTalk to dominate global communication, while smaller communities argued that they were being pushed to assimilate yet again. In an unexpected twist, corporate interests also began to intervene. Tech giants that had initially championed LanguAI Guardians began prioritizing UniTalk-compatible AI, citing efficiency and profitability. This shift sparked outrage among linguists and activists. They argued that focusing too much on UniTalk risked reducing the guardians of smaller languages to mere historical artifacts, useful only for niche enthusiasts rather than living communities. The world, it seemed, had found itself caught in a new kind of war, not one of borders and armies, but one of words and identity. Chapter 8: The Silent Generations Revolt. Amidst the growing tensions, an unexpected voice entered the debate: the elderly. Those born in the early 21st century, now in their 70s and 80s, had grown up before the rise of Unitalk and the linguosphere. For them, language was deeply tied to memory and tradition, not just a tool for communication. In rural Ireland, a group of retirees organized weekly language circles, where they taught Gaelic to young people curious about their roots. Similar movements began appearing around the world. In the Navajo Nation, elders collaborated with language guardians to teach children traditional songs, blending holographic projections with their own storytelling. One of the most poignant stories came from an elderly Korean woman named Hyejin. In a widely shared video, she spoke tearfully about her experience growing up speaking only Korean, then switching to English for work, and finally watching her grandchildren communicate almost exclusively in Unitalk. "I feel like I've lost something," she said. "I don't want my grandchildren to lose it too." Hygien's please struck a chord. Youth activists began organizing reverse Unitalk days, encouraging people to speak only their ancestral languages or dialects for 24 hours. Social media buzzed with hashtags like #SpeakYourRoots and #EchoOfHeritage. Tariq, caught between his advocacy for Unitalk and his respect for these movements, addressed the growing divide in a live-streamed message. Speaking both in Unitalk and his native Arabic, he said, "This isn't a battle between languages. It's a call to honor them all. We can share a global tongue without abandoning the ones that shaped us." His message went viral, reigniting hope that unity could prevail. But the question remained, could the world truly find balance between a shared future and a diverse past? Chapter 9. A Language Reborn. As the global debate intensified, a surprising breakthrough emerged from an unexpected corner of the world, the Amazon rainforest. The Piraha people, known for their unique and minimalist language, had been one of the last communities to resist both the linguosphere and Unitalk. Their language lacked numbers and complex tenses, but it thrived in rich oral traditions tied deeply to their environment and way of life. A young Piraha leader, Erua, shocked linguists when he announced a project to share their language with the world. Using a language guardian customized to reflect their storytelling methods, Erua introduced an immersive learning experience called Echoes of the River. It allowed users to virtually step into the Amazon, hear Piraha songs, and learn their simple yet profound phrases that encapsulated entire worldviews. Erua explained his reasoning in an interview broadcast globally. "We do not share our words to lose them. We share them to keep them alive, to show the world what we see through our eyes." The project became a global sensation. Influencers shared their experiences with the Guardian, mimicking Piraha expressions and marveling at their philosophy of living in the present. Schools began incorporating Echoes of the River into curricula, and a renewed wave of interest in preserving indigenous languages swept across the globe. For Dr. Elena Markovich, the project was a turning point. She contacted Erua to collaborate, merging his approach with her holographic immersion techniques. Together, they expanded the initiative to other endangered languages, from Ainu in Japan to Khoisan Click languages in Africa. These programs didn't just teach words, they taught cultural perspectives, reminding people that every language was a lens through which to see the world. Chapter 10. The Linguosphere 2.0. As cultural movements reignited interest in linguistic diversity, the tech industry finally responded. A coalition of AI developers, linguists, and cultural representatives came together to rebuild the linguosphere from the ground up. Dubbed Linguosphere 2.0, the new platform was designed not just to translate, but to preserve, adapt, and celebrate the nuances of human language. This time, the technology didn't simply provide seamless translation. It highlighted cultural contexts, pointing out idioms or historical connotations that might otherwise be lost. A conversation in Arabic, for instance, wouldn't just translate the phrase inshallah as God willing, but would also explain its cultural significance in fostering hope and humility. Even Unitalk evolved. Instead of being a hybrid dialect absorbing every influence, it became a structured auxiliary language that respected and amplified the unique qualities of other tongues. The new platform encouraged users to pair UniTalk with another language, creating a symbiotic relationship between the global and the local. At a global demonstration event in New York, Tarek stood alongside Dr. Elena Markovich and Erua as they unveiled the first live test of Linguosphere 2.0. A room of delegates, each speaking their own language, held a fluent conversation thanks to the AI's nuanced translations. But when key phrases were spoken, whether in Piraha, Gaelic, or Swahili, the platform paused briefly to explain their cultural depth. The audience gave a standing ovation. As Elena took the microphone, she reflected on the long journey to this moment. Language is not just about communication, she said. It's about connection. And today, we proved that we can connect without losing who we are. For the first time in decades, the world seemed to glimpse the possibility of linguistic harmony, not by erasing differences, but by celebrating them. Chapter 11. Voices of the Future. The Linguosphere 2.0 rollout sparked a renaissance in how people viewed language. Around the globe, individuals began rediscovering the joy of expressing themselves not only in UniTalk, but also in their ancestral tongues. Communities that had been divided by decades of linguistic erosion now embraced the duality of global and local identities. In a school in Nairobi, children switched effortlessly between UniTalk for their global studies and Swahili for traditional poetry competitions. In Buenos Aires, tango lyrics reintroduced old lunfardo slang, carried forward by a new generation who felt the pull of their grandparents' roots. In New York, Chinatown youth who once spoke only English now used a Mandarin guardian to write haikus honoring their ancestors. The Linguae Guardians, enhanced by the Linguosphere 2.0, became household companions. They encouraged users to explore the emotional depth of phrases, teaching not only meaning but intent. A guardian might pause and say, "In your grandmother's language, this word carries a blessing. Would you like to include it?" These tools also inspired art. Multilingual movies, novels, and music albums began to dominate the cultural landscape, weaving multiple languages into a single narrative. A blockbuster film titled Threads of Babel became an instant classic, with characters seamlessly switching languages as they traveled across a unified yet diverse world. Dr. Elena Markovich's CLPI reported unprecedented success. In their latest annual report, they revealed that previously endangered languages, like Maori and Cherokee, had seen a tenfold increase in speakers within a decade. But the real victory wasn't just in numbers. It was in the emotional stories of connection, families bonding over shared heritage, communities finding strength in their diversity, and individuals discovering facets of themselves through the words of their ancestors. Chapter 12. A Symphony of Tongues. By 2090, the world had entered a new era of linguistic coexistence. The tensions of the lingua wars were remembered as a painful but necessary step in humanity's journey toward harmony. In the hyperconnected world, language no longer divided, it united, offering humanity a way to honor both their individuality and their shared future. Global celebrations like Language Unity Day became major events. On this day, people were encouraged to speak in their ancestral tongues and share stories of how those languages shaped their lives. Virtual reality festivals allowed participants to visit cultural hubs, experiencing language in its natural context. Erua, now an elder statesman of the Piraha, delivered the keynote address at one such event. Standing on a holographic stage in Geneva, he spoke in Piraha, his voice carried across the globe by the Linguosphere 2.0. The AI paused only briefly to explain key concepts, allowing the audience to feel the rhythm and melody of his speech. "Our words are our bridges," he said, his image transmitted to billions. "And today we have built the strongest bridge humanity has ever known. Let us walk it together, without forgetting the rivers that run beneath." Tarek, now in his 50s, watched the speech with pride. Unitalk, his youthful dream, had grown into something far greater than he ever imagined, a catalyst for unity, not at the cost of diversity, but as its protector. As the celebration concluded, people across the world lit virtual candles in their homes. Each flame represented a language, glowing as a symbol of its enduring life. In that moment, the globe became a symphony of tongues, an endless melody of connection, history, and hope for a brighter, unified future.